it present in your eyes. Hear these horns, these horns. We going bullish, we going bold. Hear these horns, these horns. Not preparing for wealth, that's foolish, I know.
What up, everybody? I hope everybody's having a good day. This is going to be a two-parter, all right? So this video is about life insurance. Now, the reason why it's going to be a two-parter is because this video is going to be just very basic. Because first off, you have to understand there are different types of life insurance. And a lot, like, I'm gonna just do like a brief breakdown of like all these different types of life insurance, and then on my next video, the part 2 is actually going to be the investment one, because that's really what this channel is about. But I think it's also important just to understand the different types of life insurance. All right, so in order of cheapest to most expensive, you have term life, whole life, universal life, index universal life, and variable universal life. Okay, so those are all the different types of life insurance. And then these insurance companies within those different types of life insurances will have different insurance plans, different riders, and all that good stuff. When I do the part 2, I'll go a little bit more in depth in some of those details. But for now, we're going to kind of keep it simple, because one thing that I don't want to happen to anybody who comes across this video is I don't want you to get taken advantage. Unfortunately, not all sales agents are on the up and up, and it helps for you to know what each life insurance is all about, because there's just, how do I want to word this? Like, I think all of them have their place. It's just which one is right for you. So let me go ahead and do a quick breakdown. So first, you have term life insurance. Term life insurance works a lot like car insurance. You know, you have a term, you pay for that term, and then when the term is up, then you basically have to get another insurance policy because you're no longer covered. Term life insurance, who is this good for? Older people. If you're an older person who just wants life insurance, you don't need all the bells and whistles. All you want is just to make sure that your funeral expenses are going to be paid, maybe some extra money for your loved ones. Term life is the way to go, because you have to pass away during the term in order for it to pay out. So it's also the cheapest, has the lowest cost of insurance. So if you're an older person who doesn't have a lot of expendable income, this is the right way to go, because it's going to be your cheapest option. Plus, the older you are, the less time you have ahead of you. So you're more likely to pass away during the term. You can buy 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years. All right. One of the things that I hear all the time is, I bought a life insurance policy, and when everything is said and done, I didn't get anything out of it. That tells me that was a young person when they bought it, and that it was a term. Because if you're 20 years old and you buy a 10-year policy, you're probably gonna live past 30. So just an example. So if you're a young person and you have an agent trying to sell you term, you probably shouldn't do business with them at all, because they're trying to screw you. Then you have whole life, which is for your whole life. That's a little bit more reasonable for a young person. Maybe an older person might want to go that route because they want to be able to add riders, and there's just certain benefits you're going to get with whole life that you're not going to get with a term. It is going to be more expensive than term life, but whole life is still cheaper than the other options that I'm about to go over. So it's not like it's like I said, there's levels to this. So but that's what whole life is. It's, if you're, like I said, a younger person, whole life would make more sense, especially if you're you still don't want too much bells and whistles, you're just wanting something affordable. That's perfectly fine. One thing I will say, if you're a young person, chances are you're going to end up making more money later on down the road. So you want to keep that in mind, because maybe the other options are still make more sense. All right. Then you have universal life, which gives you a cash value. Cost of insurance is going to be higher than whole life. It's going to be higher than term, of course, because whole life is more than term, and term is cheapest. But it essentially works a lot like whole life. When it comes to universal life, you want to watch out for maturity. Anytime that maturity comes into play, that's when the policy, if it matures, they're just going to close the policy and then send out the cash value to you. If you have a lot of cash value, that works out for you. If you don't, you kind of just paid for nothing. The good news is maturity is usually going to be like a older age. Sometimes it's 75, 80, 85, 90, or 95 years old. All right. So, but yeah, maturity is going to be something that you want to ask about if you're inquiring about universal life. You also want to inquire about riders, which I think I might actually do a video just on riders as well, just to kind of keep it concise. All right, so then you have index universal life and also variable universal life. I'm going to go ahead and put these two together because you can't buy it. Chances are you're not going to be able to find a variable universal life policy at this point. Most companies have done away with them. But the people who have them bought them while they were on offer. So I'm still gonna kind of bundle them together just in case it anybody does find a company that's selling them. But these have the highest cost of insurance. I would say variable probably has higher cost of insurance than index. That's not necessarily always going to be the case, but generally speaking, that would be the case. And these are the ones that have an investment attached to them. The difference between the two: variable, you're investing in mutual funds, whereas index, you're investing in indexes. Variable, sky's the limit on gains or losses. The money you put in can literally earn millions of dollars or could lose all its value. Whereas index universal life gives you a safety net. So your money is always guaranteed to make some kind of rate of return. You'll have a floor and a ceiling. The floor is the absolute minimum rate of return that you're guaranteed. You have to check with your company, you have to check with the insurance company. It may vary between their plans because, like I said, these will have different plans. I can't cover plans because every company is different. That's something that's kind of proprietary to the companies themselves. So like company A and company B, they'll have their own plans, and those plans could be very different. They're not even comparable, other than the fact that they're index universal life, and you're still investing in indexes, but the plans could have their own kind of things. Like the floor and the ceiling could be different completely. Like, I'll give you an example. Company A, let's say the floor is 0.75% and the ceiling is 14%. Okay. Company B might have, for their lowest plan, we'll call that first plan I just mentioned, we'll call that the lowest plan. Okay. Then company B, their lowest plan might have a floor of 0.5%. It might have a ceiling of 10%. So, it's just one of those things. The plans themselves are proprietary, but what is the same is the fact that you got cash value. You are investing in indexes. All that is the same. It's you still don't have to worry about your money losing its value. Oh, sorry, my screen locked. And I want to make sure everything's getting recorded. But yeah, that's just the breakdown on like the floor and the ceiling. It can be different with the companies and all that, but a lot of the stuff is the same. The cash value, the way that works is the same. Cost of insurance, you still got riders that are available, all that. So like I said, it's just the plans from company to company could vary quite a bit. Even the indexes may vary. I think it's always a given you're going to have access to the S&P 500. I would be shocked if you were to find one where you can't invest in the S&P 500. And then they'll have some other options that may vary. Yeah, that's the basic breakdown. Like I said, the whole purpose of this video is, for one, if you're going to buy life insurance, just in general, I don't want you to get screwed, So knowing what is appropriate for you, and let me just say this, those are like general things, but sometimes your situation might be different. I'm not saying that an older person should never buy index universal life. I'm just saying, in more cases than not, it's going to make more sense for them to get term. But if you're an older person that has done well for yourself and you have quite a bit of expendable income, then I would say it would still be worth getting index universal life. Because the thing about index universal life, or just universal life in general, is that you're trying to build cash value. Well, the older you are, the less time you have to build cash value. But if you already have a good amount of cash that you can go ahead and put in, then it could still be a good idea to do index universal life, because the taxes are deferred. You know, if you have, let's say you have $20,000, you put into a savings, a CD, or money market, you're going to have to pay taxes on the interest every year. Or you could put in an IUL where the taxes are deferred, where it doesn't matter how much money you make, you don't have to report it on your taxes. So now, just be aware, you also don't have the same kind of access to the money like you would like in a savings or money market. That's the whole that's part of the reason why it's tax deferred, is because you can't just access it all willy-nilly. So, but some people do that. They'll put in an IUL and they'll get thousands of dollars or whatever in interest, and they don't have to, when they file their taxes, they don't have to report it, and it's completely legal. But in your savings or money market, the second you hit $10, now you have to report it to the IRS the next year. You're gonna get a 1099. And now, just as a side note, if you get a long-term care rider, I'm not gonna really go into what that is, but at least not on this video. That'll be for the rider video, but you will get a 1099 for that. But aside from that, if you have a universal life, index universal life, or variable universal life, minus any long-term care rider, doesn't matter how your money could get you millions of dollars. It doesn't matter. You're not going to report on your taxes the next year. So, but yeah, that's it for this video. Please, if you have any questions, leave it in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Maybe what I'll do is, if I get plenty of questions, I can do a Q&A video. But yeah, that's it for this video. Please, just if you're buying life insurance, know what life insurance suits you. The agent is supposed to sell you what best suits you, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they sell you what best suits their pockets. So if you have the knowledge of what suits you, you take the power away from them to take advantage of you. That's the whole purpose of this video. Like I said, I will do a follow-up on specifically IULs, how it works, and the advantages to having an IUL while you're alive. That being said, y'all have a good one. Peace.
Every move got a reason, every dime got a season. Bear these horns, oh, bear these horns. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.